Okay, hey guys, what's up YouTube? It is Rob, and we are going to do some 8Rack live streaming right now, obviously. To all my replay watchers, thanks so much for watching. Thank you for your nice comments lately. Some well wishes for me getting married and stuff like that. Really appreciate that. It's cool to have fan base, so you guys rock for all my replay watchers. And if you can think about good ways for me to get out there, I've had a lot of people request, how can we watch your live streams? Because I just do them at random times. I can't really plan it out, but maybe like a weekend time, we'll do one in advance. But in any case, so today I really want to talk about what I haven't done a video in a little while, but I have not been idle actually. I've been testing a lot of different things with 8Rack lately. Pretty much been all 8Rack testing for me lately. And I've really come to the conclusion that there is now, and for the first time in a long time for me personally, I have sort of identified a possible alternate 8Rack, you know, alternate and, equally valid in its own way version from that's different from my mono black version that I have been playing a while. So on the right here is more of where, these are the cards in question. In both decks, the core, 8-rack core, quote unquote, stays the same. Unlike other control decks, which have very sort of light shells, you'll see like with blue and white type control decks, blue specifically type, blue-based control decks, can have a few core cards that can operate as a sort of shell that can fit into a lot of different types of varied strategies. Unlike those control decks, because we are so specific in what we control, i.e., the hand and controlling cards in hand and hand size, we do not have very much room for variation on the core of 8-rack if we want to accomplish that goal of making sure we will keep their hand empty and we can continue to do it at all stages of the game. You need a certain core cards, and I think most 8-rack players are in agreement finally now. Now, it took years for everybody to sort of get on board, but I think finally I don't really have too much opposition to that anymore. I think the core has been pretty well established, and maybe other people have to come to that conclusion on their own, and I respect that. If you have to test it out and prove it for yourself that the core has to remain, then do that. But if you want to skip ahead and just get to the cutting edge of where what we can do with the strat, then keep on follow along with me as we go here. So on the right here is the sort of standard mono black 8-rack package. That's what I would. This is what I recommend right now, and we can get into why in a second here. Asylum Visitor, Pack Rat main, Mutavault main supports. This gives you an extremely aggressive front. This in itself, this sort of package in itself, it's almost it can operate autonomously. I guess you could say like it operates whether or not you've managed to secure your primary game plan of emptying their hand. You have alternate way of putting pressure on them and threatening them in this package right here. And this card right here will give an early aggressive approach a long-term game plan as well. So it's absolutely critical for those, because we're not running bridge main here. So we need a fallback plan, and this is what this accomplishes that. And this gives you you can apply pressure. You can trade with decks that want to do all of their damage on the second and third turns. Those zoo decks, and you can just throwing any bodies up in their way, especially one that's going to trade with any of their base critters, is extremely important. And just buying yourself time to get to turns 3, 4, and 5 alive so you can stabilize. These critters will help you, and they will help you in that race as well. They give you that chance to take an offensive approach and say, okay, you're coming at me with your beaters, but I'm coming at you with my beaters, which, yeah, I don't have as many, but I also do have everything else that's going on with 8-Rack, like ripping your hand apart and then dumping a bunch of racks on the ground to punish you quickly, because I don't have to worry about any, control aspects. I can just execute that game plan. So that you want to look at these choices here in the perspective, like through the lens of, I am playing 8-Rack. What do I want to do on top of 8-Rack? And right now, for most people, I would still recommend this approach. I think this approach is your path to the most the best chances, your best odds at a blank. You don't know what you're going to be playing. Like your overall, it could be anything. You don't know what you're going to be up against. This is a nice solid general approach that it's going to work really good against a broad range of decks. It's really, really nasty way to go at things, because you have 8-Rack, then you have an aggressive plan with critters that are t- giving you gigantic card advantage, and this is like raw card advantage, and this is like just huge swarms, like turns every dead card into a huge big threat on its own. So in any case, all right, so that's enough. This is regular 8-Rack. Okay, so let's skip over here to what I've been calling JaceRack. So this approach is going to take no critters, no offensive critters, and Jace is a critter to start with, but he's really a planeswalker. So this is a critterless approach, other than Jace. Okay, he's not going to beat anybody down for you. Critterless approach with Bridge main. Okay, so Bridge's main here has to be main, and this is a much more lockdowny approach. You might be asking yourself, with all of these great tools that we have, like in this great offensive package that we finally have now for 8-Rack. I think that's one thing that really needed for a long time to be truly great, like it is now, the way I see it. Was an offensive package, and we really have that now. So why would we ever think about, when we've finally been given the tools that we need to survive without Bridge main, why would we ever want to go back to that? Well, there is a reason, and the reason is that Jace, under a Bridge scenario, is an extremely powerful planeswalker, and it comes in at a very cost-effective 2cc. And he works very, very well with Liliana. So this is more of a lockdown approach. This Jace Rack is like a very it's almost like, though it reminds me quite a bit of my old red white lockdown decks, where I was running a Johnny and Gideon Jura and Bridge and board wipes with white, like Wrath of God, creatureless stuff. Hide under the bridge, planeswalkers tick up. It was actually, that was the basis for me creating 8-Rack in the first place. 8-Rack and Lily was, Bridge and Lily was amazing. I had identified right away, and then there was no discard deck, so obviously we needed that. Anyway, so um, this gives you a lockdown approach, okay, guys? That's what I'm trying to say. And why would you want that? Okay, this is going to be way better against your blues. I will tell you that this aggressive approach, you can find yourself out controlled against those blue, white, red decks sometimes. Those decks that we really kind of don't want to lose to. If we can't finish them out and we get into a real long-term grindy scenario with them, they have cards like Sphinx's Revelation and other cards that can put them over the top and put the game out of reach for us. This deck here will give you a much better grindy scenario. It will stall that game out, and you will enjoy you'll have a much better time if you find yourself in a long grind. And in fact, this deck really ends up trying to push the game to a grind. It's either going to be Jace and Bridge, or it's going to be Lily and Bridge, or it's going to be Lily and Jace together. That's pretty much what you're going to get. You know, you're going to be able. 8-Rack will drag the game out into extra turns just by eliminating cards in their hand. That's threats, even if they top deck their threats perfectly as they go. You've still drawn it out. So you're going to get extra turns, and that's what the kind of deck that Jace needs. And you might think, what does he really do for us? So let's think about it now. Now he doesn't turn on as fast as he like. If you play him on turn 2, you're not flipping him on turn 3 like you might be in a sort of blue white red scenario where you might have seen Jace before, or a Grixis scenario where they can dump a bunch of cards in the graveyard and flip him right away and all that. You're not aiming to, so that's fine. And believe me, his human form or his critter form it's extremely useful. It's an extremely important part of the card. So being able to, he gives you a way at 2 CC of cycling through cards. Like, so, you're drawing and discarding cards. It's essentially like drawing an extra card every turn, because we don't care about the bad cards we discard. And that's part of 8-Rack, is getting rid of cards, and that's a very common thing. We have tons and tons of redundancy because we need to do a certain amount of, we have to destroy the hand. But the redundancy becomes a useful resource with cards like this and cards like Pack Rat and Liliana. You got to pitch stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Like, so it's a resource that we have in abundance. So we don't worry about the discarding portion. It becomes a really one-sided effect. So he's essentially drawing you a card, you'll feel like, in most case scenarios. You draw that land you didn't need, and you don't have Raven's Crime in the in the graveyard. Raven's Crime is another card that makes use of, dead cards. Then fine, pitch it to Jace and draw another card for free. So you'll see as you go through this, you'll see what an advantage he is just in human form. And then once he does flip, even if the board is completely clear, you can feel pretty happy to have him flip, because he comes in he's rather large at 5 for Jace. At 2 CC now, keep in mind. He's a pretty big planeswalker. He's got 5 tokens to start with, and then you immediately +1 gives him 6, and the +1 takes away 2 power from critter. So they really need 8 power worth of damage to swing at him, to kill him right away. So it's going to be pretty hard for them to just like swing at him immediately. He can come down on the table, defends himself effectively, and he gives you options. Like, his flashback can win games a lot of the times. It puts there's a Wrench Mine in the graveyard. You're at 2 cards, staying out of the range of my. You think you're out of the range of my Brax, but a flashback Wrench Mine can be backbreaking. In any case, you get the idea. The flashback is amazing. We don't always need it, but he also gives you, in a long grindy scenario, he gives you the win from a different angle. We don't need to worry about anything else. If they solve the I can't die from 8-Rack scenario, well, can you die from getting decked? Because we'll deck you. So that gives you, and that's what you absolutely need. You want to hide, you want to lock the game down with 8-Rack, Lily, or you've got Bridge, you've got Lily, you've got Jace. So you lock the game down, and then you just finish them on out. You want your Lily's ult, great as it is, cannot finish the game. His ult finishes the game. So that is the idea between the two. So you get a lockdown grinder scenario over here that is great against control. It's much better against control-y type decks than the aggressive approach, but the aggressive approach is much better against the zoo-y type decks and the fast burn type decks. So there's your 2 options. Now keep in mind, this side over here, I'm currently running let's just throw it up here. I'm currently running this in my sideboard, so you can imagine what my deck looks like. I've got this, and this, and this coming in against burn, and zoo type decks, that is a lot of critters that they're going to have to get through. And they're also going to have to get through, IOK, Raven's Crime, Wrench Mind, Liliana, and etc. So that's going to be a challenge for them. They won't just walk all over us easily. This approach here, they will walk all over. It's too slow. But you're not playing this in that scenario. You're trying to use this is what you want to do when you've got a lot of blue in the field, Grixis, all of that. This is really, really good approach against them. Blue, white, red, Grixis, and blue, white, all of that stuff. It's going to be, I've really frustrated the hell out of them. They can't go. It's very hard for them to deal with any kind of planeswalker, Jace, Liliana behind the bridge. They have a very hard time doing it. They don't carry enough direct damage to get through the bridge, and they don't carry anything to really deal with the bridge easily. I'm not saying they can't, but it's not easy for them, especially when we're 8-racking them. So those are your two modes, okay, guys? So it's extremely important. So you've got JaceRack over here, the grinder, and you've got regular mono black 8-rack, which is good. And both of those cards and both of those decks, I'm hoping you guys have been on board with this. I've been running Leyline of the Void is an extremely powerful sideboard card for both. So, and I would also Death Shadow not so much, doesn't work as great for for regular or for JaceRack as it does for regular 8-rack. So, but both decks, I hope you guys are running this. Whatever version of 8-rack, needs to be in your sideboard. It's too many dredgy and delvey type decks out there right now. So let's put these in your sideboards. You won't regret it. They're great cards. It's a fantastic card. So anyway, let's play some games. I'm sorry to you replay watchers can obviously have skipped through the deck tech if that's not what you're interested in, but I did want to get that out there. I think that's important. So let's try both, okay? So we'll just do the standard 8-rack for starters, and hopefully we'll get a decent example of a game, and then we'll go on to the other. And so yeah, you get the idea. You guys, I've been playing a lot of the JaceRack lately. It is extremely fun. It doesn't feel good to get destroyed by Zoo and burn. That doesn't feel great, but it does feel really good to throttle other control decks. And it's also a little bit better against Eldrazi, which is another big a lot of people. It's pretty darn good against Eldrazi. It locks them down decently. Usually doesn't take long to get a game. That's odd. It is kind of early, I suppose. Oh, cool. Hey. Dang, any old time now. Usually don't have to wait for games on MTGO. Alright, here we go. That's not a great hand. It could be a good hand depending on what he's got. I'll keep it because if he's it's good against like a Bernie type scenario. And he mulligans, so that helps. Well, it's kind of a freebie if he's gonna mulligan like that. Might as well. So he's blue. So he hates this. So it's like a blue Tronny or like a really control-y blue. The main thing I don't want is the condescend right now. See, those cards, condescend and repeal, you'd see them in like a Tron, so he may just not have got any Tron pieces. Yeah, let's just... He needs too much land to be able to repeal this, and he can't condescend it. Yeah, and then I'll just pitch the IOK. Or should I pitch the rack? Let's see. 4 turns. 3 turns or 4 turns on the clock. I'll pitch that. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, he is playing Tron. He just got kind of screwed. He'll just scoop, probably. So, blue Tron, the least of all threatening Trons for us. Yeah, well, all right. I think we would have won that if he had played it out. I would like to. I mean, let's try with Jace. Just see what the game plays out like. I'm gonna keep it for one reason, and it's the Raven's Crime. The Raven's Crime keeps me from getting any kind of a land flood scenario. Like, if I draw another land, I will probably double Raven's Crime next turn as well. In fact, I will absolutely do that. Beat the Stampede. Okay. So this is the type of deck that is very hard for us to fight, but I have a good type of hand to maybe make that turn into a grind. Hey. Okay, so yeah, no question about it. The Raven's Crime works really good here because they need all of the pieces to combo off usually. the Stampede. Okay, well, he's not comboing off right away, at least. That's cute. So it does look to be the beatdown approach, which is nice. And I have my finisher, which is also nice. Like, I don't think he's got a infinite mana scenario. I think he's got a straight beatdown set up. So I should have delayed him enough to put out my bridge. Yeah, especially now, because now I don't worry about it too much. So they feel stupid now. See, now the mono black 8-Rack can approach this as well, but it needs to like get pack rat online and so on and so on. So Raven's Crime doing a lot of work here. Oh, that Essus Warden. I'm surprised he didn't play that. Ooh, do not go any farther. I'll skip by that. Okay. Doing pretty good here. Land rips are great. Yeah, there's no bad rips. Right. Not bad. You didn't get me past 16. And now that I know what I'm up against, Darkblast looks really good. Go for the throat, looks pretty good. What don't we need? That should be good. That, now, to be fair, that was a pretty mint hand for dealing with that particular kind of approach. We're going to need something similar. He could easily take the whole batch. He gets good hands, and I don't. So here's another thing. Okay, you guys, don't troll me too hard now. Yeah, I've been against Smallpox for a long time, but I have it as a 2 of in here in my JaceRack only, for reasons that we can get into. I'll keep it. I'll keep it because it looks like we've got it looks like we've got a nice solid opening hand. Like, this is going to hurt him, I think. Damn, he got it off already. Turn 2. We're definitely racing. How to do this? I think this, and I think this. I think this is the best race. Just gonna play cards. I don't know. He wants to alpha strike me with one swing, or considering Smallpox, and I'm considering Lily right now. Smallpox kind of does both +1 and -2 for me right here. I think I'm gonna go that route. So it's just a race. I have lethal damage represented, and he doesn't have much in the way of resources to kill me before I kill him. It was pretty shrewdly played on my part, actually. Yeah, I got him. I just straight raced him. So, and don't forget, he went off on turn 2. He dumped his whole hand on turn 2, and he disconnected. So anyway, you can see the differences there. Yes, I mean yes, there it is good. I'll put the list up. Yes, I'll put the list up. Cool. Now listen, okay, don't hate on me. It is not a card to be used lightly, and I only have it as a 2 of in here. Well, that wasn't straight combo elves though. Yeah, they didn't go off, but they did put 4 2/2s down with one of them was a lord that can pump out another, and he had infinite mana with heritage druids. That's a pretty good turn 2 board. So I mean, that's not a straight combo off, but it is an explosive start. Yeah, the small park works good. Now, why is he in there in Jace Rack? Well, that card is never going to work. Smallpox will never ever work in this approach. That's never gonna work for you in a mono black approach with this deck, regular 8-rack that we normally play. It doesn't work in there. Because you're gonna want to have critters on the ground more often than not, and you don't want to. That makes the card pretty one-sided. In Jace Rack, you don't have critters. Like, you're not going to play him before you're like with your Jace on the board or whatever. He comes before that, and then he makes the Jace flip a lot easier to go. And Jace is only 2 mana, so you don't, unlike, and he can finish the game for you. So he's your 2 mana Planeswalker. So it works a little bit better here, and that's my only removal. If you'll notice, I have no targeted removal in Jace Rack. I've foregone it in favor of the Smallpox. If you guys want to tweak the list, go ahead. This is what I'm running. And I haven't had any desire for any targeted removal. My targeted removal is basically I rely on 8-rack core for targeted removal. And whether you guys realize it or not, if you guys are running 8-rack core, you're also relying on it for targeted removal. So we don't necessarily need that you know, here, as long as we have some kind of after the fact board removal. And don't forget, blue also gives us access to something that a lot of people hate about 8-Rack, in that you can't deal with top decks. Well, yeah, you can. You can negate them and so on. The blue gives you access to top deck. Um, post sideboard, you get some top deck answers. So anyway, that is a thing, and I haven't been like talking about it too much, but yes, I am running 2 copies of this in my Jace Rack as my 2 removal spells, and I've liked it. And I haven't felt the need to go to less than 4 Jaces. And we're running a lockdown here. You got to get your lockdown pieces, and he's part of that. So don't troll me too hard. But yes, I can maybe see. So, and if you look at the history of 8-Rack, you'll see that it's not that I never used Smallpox. I had plenty of times where I had Smallpox coming in and out of the list. I just don't like it the last few years because of where 8-Rack needs to go, or where mono black 8-Rack needs to go. It doesn't agree with that. It does agree with a lockdown type of a deck that JaceRack creates. So you have 2 brands. You've got 2 flavors of 8-Rack now to choose from. If you're facing a bunch of quick type things where you need to finish them off quick, mono black is going to be your best approach. Burn, all that stuff. If you've got your well, I be disappointed. The main thing is I don't deny effectiveness. I'm all results oriented. If something proves good for me, I'm not going to just deny it because I don't like a card. I don't like and dislike cards like that. I just use that, like, it's all about effectiveness for me. And I have not found Smallpox to be effective in mono black. I have found it to be effective in a Jace Rack lockdown scenario. That's it. So, I mean, your results also may vary. I have definitely had times when I could not play the Smallpox, and you will also have those times. But at 2 copies, in a scenario where I'm likely to pitch it either to Jace or to Liliana, um, it doesn't feel so bad. I don't mind just dumping it right out. If I have to pitch it to Jace to flip him, or maybe I'm just doing it to get cards in the graveyard, uh, in order to flip Jace earlier, some kind of a scenario like that. I've had those times. Um, but he's a pretty nice, like you saw in that game there. He was basically Liliana's plus 1 and -2. He worked like doing both of them. Thanks. I appreciate that. My wife is super sweet and nice to me, so I got lucky. All right. Let's see, what time is it here? Yeah, I probably got to go. I got to get ready for work, but I will be doing more of this. And I want you guys, and I appreciate I don't mind, you guys challenging me, and I don't mind revisiting my own conclusions, vis-a-vis bridge main versus bridge side. Nixithid and Pack Rat, these are all cards that were proposed at one point that I, you know, was against at the time to start out with, but as the meta changes, you see different opportunities for different strategies to evolve, and I think that's what you have here. It's a 2 of, you've got your bridge to stop. The bridge stops. You're relying on your bridge to stop things, and you're relying on them to be extremely focused on your other threats. And it's not just Liliana anymore. Now it's Liliana and Jace. Either one in combination with the bridge is a nightmare, and by themselves can be a nightmare. They both defend themselves. They both are hard to deal with in one way or another. Liliana denies you resources, and Jace, in a way, kind of does the same thing in an 8-Rack shell. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think. That's good for a video. I haven't done one in a while. I just want to let guys know where I was at, and let me know about the deck tech. if you guys want to see more of that type of stuff or where I can improve on it or whatever. All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys watching. You all rocked. You've also not liked rocks. I don't like it in the regular. I don't. I like it a lot in specialized versions of it where you can break the symmetry. Regular 8-rack, you can't break the symmetry enough, not consistently enough. But in JaceRack, I have been able to break the symmetry enough to get some use out of it. Not a ton, and wouldn't do more than 2. If I was going to add another removal spell, it'd probably be Go for the Throat into that as the third removal spell. I would not do 3 Smallpox. Yeah, let's see. All of those cards I've considered. Collective Brutality, I see that played against. Some certain other decks are running that right now. I like it. I think it's probably more at home at 8-rack than in any other deck right now. Does it do? It's just not quite compelling enough because here's the problem. Unless you're going to put it in as your removal spell, which if that's what you're going to do, that's fine. If you're not going to use it as your removal spell, then it has to replace Wrench Mind, and I don't like it. I like Wrench Mind as a more consistent thing, unless you know you're going to be up against tons of artifacty things, which maybe that happens. We got a big artifact set coming out, so maybe Wrench Mind needs to get revisited if we become artifact. It becomes like an artifact apocalypse for us. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. It's just a bit too slow. I like it though. Like once you get it's too what it's too slow for is a removal spell. That's the problem with it. It's great as a 2-for-1 spell, which makes me want to replace Wrench Mind with it. So it's really I think it fights Wrench Mind because you want a 2-for-1 with it, and Wrench Mind gives you a 2-for-1 for 2 mana. So the question is, do you get more value out of this often enough for it to replace a Wrench Mind? And for me right now, it's no. But we'll see what happens when the artifact sets come out. Crypt Breaker, I think it's viable because in the same way that Pack Rat is viable because of its casting cost. It gives you the same kind of a discard outlet that Pack Rat does at 1 CC, which could be a thing. It's better against, like, if you were going to customize a list that was without officially main decking hate, I would say if you had like Asylum Visitors and Crypt Breakers instead of Asylum Visitors and Pack Rats, you would be better off against Burn. Those things they come out earlier and they make chump blockers on turn 2. So they come online earlier. So yes, I think a 1-of Crypt Breaker in a regular 8-rack replacing 1 rat would be okay. If you're running 4 rats, you could do a 3-1 split there. I think that's totally viable. It's good. So it's not, I mean, don't feel forced to, but you could try it out. Yeah, go ahead. Bokuja Bog, I don't recommend. If I'm going to play a tapped land, it's going to give me a little bit better than just a graveyard swipe. I do like Leyline of the Void, though, for great graveyard shenanigans. Leyline of the Void crushes. I mean, you can put in whatever you want. I don't know. You can copy any of the old stuff I have. You if you know, I mean, do you know the strat? That's the thing. Is like if you know if you really got the idea of the core 8-rack being, the sort of immutable, at least mostly immutable, you should do fine. However you want to express it. Other than that, that's all that I want to get across there. Is that the core remain intact? Whatever splash route or whatever alternate route you want to flavor it with, that's fine. That's up to the individual, personal preferences and taste. Just make sure you get the core. Well, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there, Scrublord. And that's my first intention. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, take out the spell removal, put in the brutality. I get the flexibility. But what the problem is that you can't. You get those scenarios where you just want to turn two, kill something, and it's not quite there yet. Like, yeah, you can do it sometimes, but other times, you're not going to kill a goy if it's 3/4 on turn two or something like that, or a whatchamacallit, uh, Skoos. I had problems not being able to kill Skoos and Goyf with it. So, or no, it wasn't Skoos. It was Nikotl. That's what it was. It couldn't kill the damn Nikotl. But anyway, now when you do 2-for-1, it feels great, but that doesn't happen right away. Usually that happens when you're sort of stabilized and you have resources to spare and you get a nice full value out of it. Then it feels great. It feels like, yeah, it's better than my regular removal spell. But when you can't kill the Goyf, it feels like, damn, you can't kill the Death Shadow, which has been around there too. I've been fighting against Death Shadows. It's funny, I was like, I don't know, I always end up seeing the cards that I'm testing around used against me somehow. Anyway, I would contribute to the primer. Let me see what you got going on. If you want to put if you want to use my sig without the text as the banner, you can use that. My sig on MTG Salvation. That's cool. Okay. All right, I will. Yeah, we probably do need a new primer. It's kind of outdated. But the thing about it is that in a way, we need a new primer, but in a way, we don't. Is that GP? The life gain was nice. Yeah, that's the one. That's the real draw of that. Is that life gain? Yes. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you empty your hand. Bridge is online, gain some life. It looks good in a bridge main scenario. It may need a little bit more looking at in the JaceRack for me. I haven't tried it in JaceRack. I had tried it in regular 8-Rack. Maybe I'll try dumping the Smallpox and putting in the Collective Brutality in those two slots. And that gives me, potentially 2-for-1 removal spells. So that sounds like a good idea, actually. To get the bridge online quick. So yeah, so it has that definitely facilitates the bridge strat. So good call on that, Anthony. I had kind of forgotten about Collective Brutality's bridge applications because I hadn't played it in a scenario where bridge was main. So that needs to be looked at. That's a good call on that. Yeah, I'll check that out. And then the life gain, that'd be our only life gainer. And believe me, I've looked. I really want a life gain. Some card where I could get some life out of it. I wish I could get some kind of like some life gain out of my land base. But anyway, all right. So I gotta shut it down now. I gotta get ready for work. But I do appreciate all the awesome comments and conversations. Hopefully, you guys can help me get these versions of 8-Rack ironed out. If you, I'll PM you about it, but I do want to talk about yeah, well, I'll PM you about it. That's fine. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and the comments. See y'all later.